This morning comes from Philippians chapter 4, verses 8 through 9. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things. Whatever you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. So, I was on my way to work this morning. Though I am usually a staff chaplain at Altman Hospital, on Wednesdays, I work at the Compassionate Care Center as a hospice chaplain for Altman Hospice. About a month ago, they changed the day of the week for one of the interdisciplinary group meetings. They moved it to Wednesday, which meant, since that was my day, I would have to do it than one of the other full-time hospice chaplains. I was told that in this meeting, I would be responsible to offer a spiritual reflection or a meditation. I was to lift up the names of over the past week. And I was also supposed to share anything that I knew about any of the current patients as the nurse and doctors talked about those patients. The first meeting that I attended, I did not remember until about 5 minutes before it started that I was responsible for a reflection. So I quickly threw something together in my head, and it was something that I had thought about on the way to work. And it went like this. So, I was on my way to work this morning, and I heard some DJs discussing road rage. And they were all sharing about what bugged them the most. And at one point, one of the DJs said to another, to the one DJ that hadn't said a word, "So what about you? What bothers you the most?" Everybody else chimed in, all the other DJs, "Yeah, what bothers you?" And this DJ said this. He calmly said, "I have set that aside." They're all like, "What? You set it aside?" And he says, "I just set it aside." And then he added, "I decided that I did not want to use my energy for that." So then I thought to myself, could it be that easy? Just set it aside. Make that choice. And then I asked myself, what might I need to set aside? What am I wasting energy on? Because every day, every moment that we have is new. There are always new possibilities, new opportunities before us. But yes, we may need to first set something aside. Quit wasting energy so that we can grab on to these new opportunities before us. Not bad for 5 minutes before the meeting. So the next Wednesday comes, and I'm sitting in the meeting waiting for it to start, and I notice that everybody is staring at me. Oops. Guess who forgot that they start the meeting with a meditation? So slowly, one by one, I looked at everyone in the room. That was me taking time to come up with something. And I said, so, I was on my way to work this morning. Several of the colleagues chuckled. And then I continued. I was on my way to work this morning, and I was getting upset about the bright sun getting in my eyes when all of a sudden I felt a huge rush of thanksgiving. And my mind took me back to a memory of working in a lumber yard with my dad as my boss. Now, if you ever worked for a parent, you know that you have to work at least twice as hard as any of the other employees, which was why on this summer morning I was up at 3 a.m. making lumber deliveries so we could get as many to the job sites before 7 o'clock, which is when all the construction workers would show up. And so there I am, driving about between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. Well, I worked longer than that, but those early mornings, and being out that early allowed me to be blessed by the sight of some spectacular sunrises. There were some that were so beautiful that I remembered then actually put my truck over to the side of the road, stopped the truck, and just said, thank you, Lord. Thank you. And so then I thought to myself, for what in my life am I thankful? Am I expressing my thanks to those who bring me joy? Am I expressing my thanks to the Creator for those stunning sunrises and sunsets and gloriously colorful fields of wildflowers? Am I allowing my eyes, my heart, to be open to the beauty around me? So that was my meditation. I had pulled it off for the second Wednesday in a row. I came up with a reflection just like that. But really, it didn't happen just like that. You see, because when I'm on my way to work in the morning, it is actually a time of reflection for me. It's a time of thinking and thanking, a time of wishing and wondering. It's a time of hope. And sometimes it's a time of how in the world? It's a time of personal pondering. And because of this daily contemplation, I was able to come up quickly with some reflections for these early morning meetings and the new responsibility that I had of sharing that opening meditation, which I had forgotten about 2 weeks in a row. When I again began the third meeting with, so, I was on my way to work this morning. One of the coworkers said, you know what, I think that's becoming your catchphrase. I then shared that the topic was about thankfulness, and another coworker called me on it, and they said last week was about thankfulness. And I told them that during my reflection times, I don't always choose the topics. Sometimes the topics choose me. And then I continued saying that morning on my way to work, I felt just a sudden feeling of deep and strong happiness and joyfulness and thanksgiving. And I was like, what is causing this? And then I realized what was causing it was that I was going to work. That's right. I was full of joy and happiness and thanksgiving because I was going to work. It's because I truly love what I do, and I love the people with whom I work. One of my coworkers said, oh, that's so sweet. I said, oh, it's okay that I repeat a topic as long as it's about you, huh? All right, fine. Well, you know, I am thankful for those times of reflection. Sometimes it's on my way to work. Other times, it might be pulling weeds in my garden. Yeah, that's a reflection time for me. Or maybe it's going for a walk or just sitting on the patio and listening to the sound of the raindrops. They're moments of meditation, instances of innate instruction. They're occasions of introspection. They are times of deep thought. What about you? When and where are yours? Are you doing some personal pondering? I hope so. Whether someone is part of a faith tradition or not, deep thinking and reflection can be mentally and spiritually healthy for anyone. Mind exercise is good for the brain. Self-examination can help us to see the paths that we are on and to guide ourselves to the paths that we'd like to be on. Our friends in the Eastern religions, they've been practicing meditation and reflection for thousands and thousands of years. Pondering, thinking deeply is a central act of worship for our Muslim neighbors. Their scriptures tell them that they should ponder with their hearts and their minds. And yes, our scriptures offer encouragement for times of thinking and pondering. On multiple occasions, Jesus led by example as he went by himself, off alone, away from the crowds, away from his friends, sometimes not even telling them where he was going or when. He just disappeared. And then there's a verse that I read at the start, which encourages good thoughts to have. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure and lovely and admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think on these things. Now, that doesn't mean that some of our thoughts won't be tough or challenging. So again, what about you? Do you have a location? Multiple locations? Where is your pondering place? When is your thinking time? On what do you reflect? What contemplation topics do you choose? Which topics choose you? I don't mean those crazy times that we have at 2 o'clock in the morning when our brain wants to figure out why coconuts have fur. No, I'm talking about those intentional times when you are open to seeing the spectacular, when you are open to hearing the challenges, when you are open to feeling the love, to reflecting on the questions that you have, to pondering the meaning of your life. Okay, and sure, to wonder why coconuts are furry. So, I was on my way to work this morning. I guess it's now my catchphrase, at least for those hospice team meetings. What might yours be? What is your meditation mantra? Your deep thinking tagline, your contemplation catchphrase? Perhaps one is coming to mind right now in your head. So, I was on the deck this morning with a cup of coffee in my hand, How's that sound? So, the kids were all in bed, and I had just collapsed on the recliner. Or maybe, so I was on the beach, the sound of the waves lapping on the shoreline. Any of those sound promising? What might be your catchphrase? When do the thoughts begin flooding in? When do you think about these things that are excellent and praiseworthy as Philippians encourages us? And when do you think about those things that are challenging and scary or confusing? When do you have healing and fulfilling times of reflection? It is my hope. It is my hope that you will allow yourself plenty of time for soul-searching thought. I'd like to close today with a poem that a 16-year-old Jamie saw in a church bulletin at High Street Christian Church, and for some reason cut it out of the bulletin and stuck it into a box, only for it to be discovered when I was unpacking boxes in the office of my first congregation. It had to be a God thing, because I don't know why 16-year-old me would have put that away. But it's become my most shared poem, one of my most shared anythings, actually. It's an old poem, and it uses the phrase, sore beset, which can mean many things, like sad or confused or lonely or overwhelmed, whatever. It goes like this. When I am sore beset, I seek some quiet place, some lonely room or barren, windswept hill, and there in silence I wait apart until I see again the smile upon God's face, and I feel God's presence fill me like the dawn, and I hear once more that whispered, peace, be still. And I know again the strength to do God's will. And I turn to take my load, and I find it gone. Jackie, her children's moment this morning was about that load of junk that we carry. Sometimes our pondering will give us insight. Other times our pondering will unburden us from the junk that we carry. May you find time, may you make time for reflection. That is my hope. God bless you. Now I have to look and see what's next.